Coney live for the Built Ford Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti, it's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network. And wherever you are in the free Odyssey app, good Monday morning. This has been talked about for years and years and years. I can remember when Juan Soto first came up as a teenager, and we first saw him as a Washington National. People were talking about, man, when this guy becomes a free agent in a number of years, what is he going to get? Then he was turning down $300, $400 million deals from multiple organizations. We saw him go to the Yankees. He talked about his free agency then. We talked about how he was going to rent in the Bronx and buy in Queens. We talked about this so much we stopped talking about it here on the show because we got sick of talking about it. And it came to a head last night. Juan Soto signs with the New York Mets, decides not to be a New York Yankee for a totality of $5 million over the course of this deal. It's incredible. It is a huge moment for the Mets organization, stealing a Yankee in that way, paying him the most, flexing the muscles for Steve Cohen, especially after last year getting spurned by Yamamoto when he was ready to pay him more than anybody else. But this is just the first step, because this is 15 years of this guy being quite possibly the highest paid player in baseball, unless someone gets a bigger deal than this. He's got to win. He's got to be great. He's got to deliver a World Series, all of those things. And this contract better not stop them from spending more money, because then I'm really going to get pissed. But today, I'm happy. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, baby. You're right. Thanks, Eddie. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm good, man. But here's the thing. I mean, I want to know whether or not this is going to preclude them from going after more players. It shouldn't, because Steve Cohen is is worth so much money. And, the devil's in the details with this contract, and I can't wait to see all the contract details. Right now, we're being told for the first 5 years of this contract, okay, he's going to get a $75 million signing bonus. That's great. And he's going to end up pulling in a total of $305 million in the first 5 years of the contract, which means that the AAV of that contract is $61 million per year for the first 5 years of the contract. After that fifth year, he can opt out. And hopefully by that time, he's won 2 World Series and 2 MVPs, because that's the kind of money that they're paying him. I mean, this comes along with a lot of pressure and a lot of expectations, and it should. And, he's been a guy who's been a really good player. I do not think he's a 5-tool player. I think he's a really good hitter. I think he'll slot nicely in the Mets lineup. But after 5 years, if they want to keep him, if he opts out and he wants to stay, they have to raise his then salary of $51 million, which is really, it's 51 in salary, but he's got the $75 million signing bonus, to $55 million for the rest of the contract.
Yep.
So it's an insane contract. Steve Cohen has stepped up to the plate here. This is a little surprising, because I don't necessarily know this is what David Stearns would have wanted to do, but he was being told to do it.
Yeah, that's it's a really good point. I would love to get a candid David Stearns take on if he's like, I think we went a little too far with this. I mean, I'm glad we got him, but I wish it didn't take $765 million.
Right, and I do think that you're right. There is something about signing a Yankee away from the Yankees, forcing the Yankees to go all the way up as high as they did, especially given the fact that they have Garrett Cole, they have Aaron Judge, and they have Giancarlo Stanton on that roster. Now you would have added a fourth person to that roster, and it would have been just an insane amount of money that they were spending. They would be kind of like the Dodgers. And I guess in this arms race and in this race for great athletes, and especially when you're Steve Cohen, who's trying to do other things over there at Citi Field, he's got to make everything relevant over there, which I think is a good thing. And Juan Soto came to free agency at the right time with the right owner in the mix, and the Mets were not going to be outbid. I never thought in my wildest dreams that they would ever go this far, this much, and for this long. And they did it, and I guess this is the way baseball is meant to be. I can't imagine that the commissioner's office, which I really don't care about, but it could be really totally happy about all of this, the way this thing played out, simply because 3/4 of the league don't have a shot. They don't have a shot in hell.
Yeah, and the point of the luxury tax or the Cohen tax is to be able to stop owners like Steve Cohen from doing stuff like this, and it certainly didn't stop him here. I don't know if it's going to stop him in the future to go over a particular threshold, but we sat here for months in agreement when people called up about this before we stopped taking calls on it because we were sick of it. And people would say, having him there with the Yankees and hitting next to Judge and being part of the Yankees and going to the World Series with the Yankees, I mean, maybe he'll take a discount or maybe, the most money isn't going to matter to him. And we said, no. I mean, no. This guy was going to take every last penny. We said it for months, and he did. Now, do I want to believe that he was all in on the Mets program and is like, yeah, I want to be a Met and David Stearns is the best and Lindor's the best and this is the best team out there and I want to be a part of it? I'd love to believe that, and maybe some of that thought process went into it, but you can't convince me that if the Yankees had matched that deal that the Mets had, that he would have gone to the Mets. I mean, Steve Cohen was going to offer the most money. We all knew that. And he ended up taking it.
All right, so now he has the most money, the largest contract in the history of Major League Baseball.
In professional sports.
Yeah, it's professional sports. I don't know, Michael Schumacher, how much is he making? F1 driver?
Yeah, I don't think it's this.
Ronaldo?
I mean, everybody's been saying professional sports.
All right. Okay.
Maybe North American professional sports. I don't know.
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, it's all guaranteed. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
And, for players that are in other sports, they look at this, and, this is very NBA-esque, this type of contract. So it feels, but the fact of the matter that they would go that long with a player.
Well, he's 26, and, you see a guy who is 30 years old, and Aaron Judge was getting 10 years. A guy who's 26 years old getting 15 isn't crazy to think.
What I think would have been, it would never happen, but I think it would have been fair. Okay, we're going to give you $305 million over the 5 years of your contract. You have the ability to opt out. We should have the ability to opt out.
Yeah, but then they would never get him.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's remarkable that Shohei Ohtani, who, by the way, had a 50-50 season and led his team to the World Series, is making $700 million and is going to come back and pitch next year as well as hit. I don't know if he'll have as many stolen bases, but this is right now it's exciting, and hopefully the next 5 years he is going to be the missing piece, and it will be interesting now to see what the Mets will do on top of this.
Yeah, and it's not going to be a big starting pitcher. It's not going to be Corbin Burns. It's not going to be Max Fried. I think they're just not in the business of doing that, giving long-term deals out to pitchers anymore. That's just not the David Stearns way, so I wouldn't expect that. So don't think, I got duped into last year thinking like, oh man, the totally bargain basement hunting with Stearns. No, I mean, it's just that's his philosophy with the starting pitching, and I love it. I love the fact that he's trying to find these guys and get them in the program and figure it out and get them on short-term deals, because once you sign these pitchers to 10-year deals or they have a Tommy John surgery and everything else, it's a disaster. So I wouldn't expect them to spend a ton of money there. But yeah, they're going to have to. The only thing about this contract that bothers me, because I don't care if he deserves it. I don't care if Ohtani's a better player and Juan Soto's making more money. None of that means anything to me if it doesn't hold the Mets back from doing everything that they want to do. Because the second that happens, then I start getting pissed off. Where it's like, okay, the entire team is that guy. We've seen that in football with the quarterback, which is a different story. Yep. Where like the rest of the roster sucks and you've got the quarterback. I just don't want that to happen.
You know what? This contract, and I guess the Yankees were what? You said about $5 million?
So it was 16 for $760 was the Yankees offer.
And that's twice as much as they're paying Aaron Judge.
That's right.
That's insane to me. I'm kind of glad that I'm not kind of glad. I mean, now what do the Yankees do? Where do they pivot to? And there are ways, and when you and I have talked about this before we really got into all this stuff, that there are ways that the Yankees can end up buying 3 or 4 more players for this amount of money.
Well, I mean, yes, but how much impactful? Because you got to think. So it's like their AAV with Soto ended up being $48 million over the 16 years. It was 51 for the Mets and Steve Cohen. So you got to look at it that way. With that $48 million a year, are you getting 4 good players? Probably not. You know, you could get 2 really good players if you split that, the 25 or 24 million for each player. But it's tough, man, because now you're banking on 2 guys in free agency to come over that you don't know anything about. And by the way, Juan Soto did come to the Yankees and succeed. He was good. He was really good with Aaron Judge, and they went to the World Series. So, I mean, it's just going to be tough to find 2 guys that are going to be able to get that production. And now I would be scared if I were the Yankees because they're probably going to pivot to one of these pitchers. Like if they end up, giving a ton of money to Max Fried, then he comes here.
They need a first baseman.
Oof.
They need a third baseman, and they need an outfielder. They need that. That's really what they need.
Yeah,
and you can get 3 players. Maybe not nearly as long-term, not nearly as much money per player, and still be able to refortify your lineup and make it longer. And look, would you be surprised if the Yankees added Pete Alonso?
I wouldn't, and I think that's going to be like just going to drive the Yankee fan crazy.
When Pete Alonso's hitting 55, 60 home runs for you,
maybe,
and you have 3 guys with the potential of. If in fact that's what I would do if I were the Yankees. I'd immediately go get him, put him on the team. I would. I mean, and remember, he was the guy protecting everybody else in the lineup. Now he has the protection in the lineup.
That's true. And he came off a down year. I wouldn't expect him to have another year like that. I mean,
a down year, but still. I mean, still a presence, played every game.
Yeah. They could do a hell of a lot worse than Pete Alonso. The reason I just said the Yankee fan would hate it is just because of all the things that go along with fandom, where now it feels like the Mets are the big brother. We took your guy, and now you're taking our scraps. I mean, that's what it's going to feel like. And that's why this is significant today. Like, this is every dream that a Met fan had when Steve Cohen became the owner was realized last night. Was the biggest free agent is out there. They're going to offer him the most, and they're going to outdo the Yankees.
And I would think that I wonder if David Stern started with Scott Boras, or maybe it was Steve Cohen who started with, because they lost Yamamoto.
Yeah.
So
they were pissed about that because he flew to Japan, Steve Cohen, maybe twice, at least once, and then had them at the house, too.
I'm assuming that they sat down with Boras immediately and said, look, we don't want to be played here. If we're the highest bidder, we want to know that he's coming to the highest bidder. We don't want to be the highest bidder and then him leave us standing at the altar, because if you do that to us, we will never do business with you again. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, therefore, I would think that Scott Boras, the agent, the super agent, would have said to whoever he was speaking to, whether it be the Red Sox, whether it be the Dodgers, whether it be the Yankees or the Mets, that the highest bidder is going to win, guys. He likes all of you. He wants to play for all of you. Here are a couple of things that we have to have in the contract. If you're willing to meet those contracts and the contract requirements, and you are the highest bidder, then therefore we will accept that offer, and we're not playing anybody here. So that, to me, if he would have signed with the Yankees for less money, that would have been the ultimate indignity for Steve Cohen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like it was trending in that direction from a lot of the reporting before last night, and I never believed that he was going to take less money. But, I mean, you think about it. So, yes, the AAV is different. The signing bonus is different, all of those things. But over the course of the contract, it was a difference between $5 million. So if you're a Yankee fan this morning, like C-Mac, and I'm driving in, and he's trying to think about this. This is the first time this has ever happened to him.
Yes.
That a player has said the Yankees aren't good enough. Like, we're talking the difference between 760 and 765, and he spent a year with the Yankees, hitting in the same lineup as Aaron Judge and going to the World Series in the pinstripes, and he let $5 million make him go to Queens and put on a Mets uniform. And that is a tough pill to swallow for the Yankees fan this morning. And it's never happened to them.
All right, so in order for this contract to be considered a success for the New York Mets,
they got to win a World Series, or they got to be consistently in the playoffs with a shot to do it. I mean, I don't care about his individual accolades. I mean, and for Steve Cohen, for it to be a success, it's going to help him get his downstate license. It's going to help him develop that area. He's going to have the ballpark packed. I mean, there's he wants to win too, but I mean, there's a lot of business side of this too. But for me, as I sit here today, it's all about winning their next World Series. That's what it would have to be.
You know, I'm not so one way or the other about not going with the Yankees or stealing a guy from the Yankees or whatever. I just felt like Juan Soto has been a mercenary since he left Washington. Like, he didn't want to sign the deal with San Diego. Mm-hmm. Right. He didn't really. I don't know if the Yankees would have offered him a deal before before the end of the year. It didn't sound like it. And I feel like he was just a guy, as you have pointed out many times, that he is going to sign for the most money. He's not going to. It has nothing to do with legacy. It has nothing to do with the legacy team. The legacy teams would have been the Dodgers, and it would have been the Yankees. That if it was all about legacy, it would have been one of those two teams.
Yeah, and think about this too. You know, Scott Boras last year was embarrassed in that offseason. He was the butt of all jokes. And if his client, didn't cash in this way or didn't take the most money, then it would have been another one of those situations where it's like, oh, I guess you didn't do your job. So it was all part of it. But, Steve Cohen, in missing out last year, made the bigger statement here this year. And it is exciting, but it's also it does come with some nervousness. Like I'm not full jubilation. Evan Roberts, Sal Licata, Pete Hoffman, Tommy Lugauer, who I saw last night, going crazy on the Rico Bronya live podcast, because you're talking 15 years at $51 million a year. I mean, Juan Soto is a great player. Does he deserve to get more money than Shohei Ohtani, who's won multiple MVPs and pitches and hits?
Or Aaron Judge.
Right, well, younger, so but yeah, I mean, it's like, I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
With a resounding yes, because it's just not true. So it's a huge day for the Mets. It's a significant paradigm shift in New York baseball, but it comes with a lot of work to do. There is a lot of work to do ahead of us. And for the young Met fan, I'm sure they're absolutely thrilled. For the ones who have been through the wars and have the scars to prove it, we got to see him go out there and be an MVP-type player for years to come. All right, Boomer and Gio just getting started.